Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. I'm Ethan, brought to you by the letter P for Pete. Hey, Pete, what's up?
Not much, buddy. How are you?
Everything is great. It is the weekly stream or skip segment. Every week, I introduce the segment, and then you remind our listeners what are the rules of stream or skip. So without further ado, take it away, buddy.
All right. So Ethan and I have prepared lists of TV shows for each other to watch. Every week, we randomly assign each other one of those shows. We have to watch at least 2 episodes. And based on that, we determine if that show is worthy of being streamed or skipped.
That's right. And you also had an assignment from Apple TV Plus. What was it?
I watched Women in Blue.
Tell us about it.
So, Women in Blue is based on true events. I want to first kick off by saying what they've started to do is protect themselves legally. Just a quick update. Netflix lost
the baby reindeer?
That's right.
They lost?
Well, so when the case was brought up against Netflix for Baby Reindeer, they sought to dismiss the case.
Oh, it wasn't dismissed.
And it wasn't dismissed. And they said, and so now instead of saying based on a true story, they're saying based on real events.
Okay.
So that's a little bit more, you get a little bit more leeway.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how the show opens.
Okay.
And it's set in, I don't remember the date or if it's even said, but let's say, 60s, 70s era Mexico City.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a Spanish language show based in Mexico City.
Okay.
And the premise of the show is that there is a serial killer on the loose called the Undresser or something like that.
Weird.
And he's out there killing women, this serial killer, and leaving them relatively undressed. Now, they're showing them in the classic old-fashioned negligees and silk pajamas. I don't know if they were actually naked or not, but in the TV show, they're, dressed in what would be unsightly for society back in the day.
Got it.
There's like massive protests across the city, especially those led by women, because the women are feeling like they're not being protected and the police is being kind of beleaguered by the fact that they're not able to catch this serial killer.
Okay.
And there's a new president of the country. And so there's a lot of political and civil unrest and pressure to kind of catch this guy.
Okay.
And so what they decide to do to show the country that they're being proactive is create the country's and the city's first female police force.
Were there even female police officers back then?
No, it was a completely male-oriented and male-dominated thing, and there were no women allowed in the police force.
It's like For All Mankind, where they created like the...
Exactly. And that's funnily enough, that's exactly right. That's the first thing that came to mind. So For All Mankind was kind of like a historical fiction idea,
right?
But also grounded in a little bit of the reality of early 60s era sexism.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is the same way. What you do is the first episode is basically kind of like an anthology story of a bunch of different women around the city who are in some way discontent with their lives or some way disappointed with what's going on around them.
Do they come from like a law enforcement background, or they're just like...
So some do. So for example, there's a seamstress at a garment factory. There's the daughter of a police captain, and he's got 2 or 3 sons who are all detectives and police officers. And she's the only daughter he has. And she's basically expected to help her mother at home, even though she's 25 years old. And it's so funny because the first time you're introduced to her, she's having a competition with her detective brother to put together a pistol that's been disassembled. and she handily defeats him while blindfolded.
Of course.
Because of course you're right, to show that she's actually a capable woman, but because of the sexism of her father, that this, and it's not just the male dominated society, but it's also that stereotypical Latin bravado and machismo idea that the woman is supposed to be at home. Then you have the wife of a very successful architect, and we learn that the architect is cheating on her. So she's discontent, and her family is like, well, all men slip up. You have to kind of protect the sanctity of your marriage and just accept it. You have her sister, who's like this feminist protester who gets arrested because she's protesting against the killers. And it sounds like one of those cheesy, stereotypical hodgepodge collection of women from across society, kind of like the Bad News Bears. That's exactly right. And then all of them across the city hear about this female police force that's being created. And so they all have like this light bulb moment where they're just like, I need to shake up my life. I need to make changes. I'm going to join the police force. I'm going to prove to my father that I am more than just a woman. I'm going to prove to my cheating husband that I'm not someone to be taken lightly. All those kinds of things. Right? The head of police is trying to find a captain to take over and lead the squad. And of course, all the men are like, no way, get lost. There's no way I'm going to deal with a bunch of women. So he finds a disgraced police captain who was kicked off the force or suspended. And he grabs him at like a strip club or a brothel or something and says, hey, if you want your badge back, this is how you get it. You have to lead these female cadets. And he's the only one that believes that they're actually capable, the stereotypical kind of thing, right?
Right.
Nothing we haven't seen before. And so have you ever seen Glow?
The wrestling?
Yeah, the Glamorous Ladies of Wrestling show?
Yeah.
With Allison Brie and Mark Maron. Maron.
Yeah.
The captain who becomes like the new head of the female police force reminds me exactly of Mark Maron.
Oh.
Where he's just like this pragmatic guy. He's like, listen, they're going to try to set you up to fail, but I'm going to try to make sure that you're actually succeeding in this. And then he's also pragmatic because once they actually succeed and get it. So like one of the funny things is that sexism is hugely rampant. So like when they're on the first day of the job, they go to the equipment locker and they're handed a whistle and a coin purse. And they're like, what the hell do we do with this? Like, where's our guns? And they're like, well, if you see a crime, blow on the whistle and use the coins in the coin purse to call the police. And they're like, call the police. We are the police. No, call the real police. So it's things like that you're just like, oh God. And so, of course, they're called the Women in Blue because the police officers have a very light blue uniform. The female squad, they actually look more like the old-fashioned Pan Am stewardesses of the 60s, like with the mini or like the short mini skirt kind of dress. You know what I mean? It becomes clear that the president and the head of the police are doing this for political purposes, kind of just to appease the masses. This is going to appease the rest of the country that, hey, we're taking this seriously, but we're really not, And then, of course, the female police squad finds a body from the killer. Then the males are put under huge, tremendous pressure to find someone to confess to this crime. They find a mentally challenged park ranger and they accuse him and they force him to sign a confession. And the police lady who sees the confession is like, that guy is mentally challenged. He doesn't have the capacity. You guys forced this confession out of him. There's no way that this guy does it. And so, of course, at the end of the second episode, you learn that what they decide to do is some of them decide to start investigating this off the books on their own, the females. And that's where I left it after 2 episodes. This is, funnily enough, an excellent show. I really enjoyed it. It's really, really good. No matter how stereotypical a lot of these things are, right? The Latin machismo, the male sexism, the females are weak, all those kinds of stereotypes, that one butch feminist, that one super capable police officer, the lab assistant who's the nerd, who's kind of like the quiet one. She's like Velma from Scooby-Doo, all
Oh
that kind
yeah,
of stuff.
Velma.
All those stereotypes aside and all those cliches aside, I loved it. I loved it. This is so good. This is a must subscribe.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's I have to say a little bit unexpected, but it's great that the run of success we've had on Apple TV Plus is continuing, huh?
Yeah. 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 I'm really enjoying this show, and I highly recommend that if you're whether it's subtitles, whether it's dubbed, watch at least one episode. You'll know exactly what I mean about the stereotypes or the cliches when you see the first episode.
Yeah.
But somehow it's got a charm, and you'll kind of go past that. I'm so confident. It's so good.
Is there a main character within the female cast?
It looks like what they're doing is there are 16 of them selected to be as a part of the squad. And it looks like those 4 or 5 women that you see the hodgepodge collection of the backstories of. So there's the lab assistant, there's the daughter of the police captain, there's the wife of the architect, there's her sister. So there's like 4 or 5 of these women.
Kind of the main.
I think they're going to be the main character.
Okay. Wow. So that is Women in Blue, Apple TV Plus. Pete's giving it a must subscribe after 2 episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good. I'm really enjoying it. Worst case scenario, I think this is going to get downgraded to a mooch after the entire season is over.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a certain charm to all of these people and to all these actors. They're all doing such a good job. I can't help but love it.
Wow. That's really great. Moving on, I have been assigned something called Bodkin, which is a series on Netflix, which just came out in early May. And we are initially introduced to, let's say, she's a journalist, but she's an investigative journalist, and she's being suspended by the newspaper for some rather aggressive reporting, apparently. But we don't really know anything more about the backstory. But we understand that she's going to be reassigned to kind of tag along with an American podcaster who's doing a story in Ireland. So apparently she's just kind of around to show him Ireland and the area. It's a little bit cloudy at the beginning, but that's kind of how we're introduced to the journalist and to the American podcaster who's got a kind of a sidekick type assistant. And then the premise is that once everyone is in Ireland, the podcaster is tracking down, he does like true crime stories, and he's doing a true crime podcast about the disappearance of 3 people from like 25 years ago. That is kind of the premise of this. And it's intended to be, it calls itself a black comedy thriller, but it's really kind of like a mystery series. And we're supposed to try to figure out what happened with these disappearances. The town is a little bit creepy, kind of like a Fargo or a Twin Peaks.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're not really sure if everybody is in on it and the whole town or community is trying to cover something up, or if they just don't know and they don't care, or if it's been like 25 years and everyone's like, look, like, we just don't want more publicity for the town. You know, we've got lives, you know, we just kind of want to move on and not always be kind of this tourist trap for the curious. So that's the background. And I guess from a premise perspective, there's nothing really incredible or nothing that should be kind of like discounted right away about the premise. It's a totally acceptable premise. I think, like I said, I don't think it's so novel that it immediately sparks your interest, but it's enough to kind of like get the series moving. I think the series falls very, very flat, partly because even when I called it up on Netflix and you see like the different categories of what type of show this is going to be, it lists comedy first and then thriller. And the comedy aspect is very, very beyond subtle. Sometimes you and I watch like a British series and the comedy is there, but the humor is very, very subtle, right? It's kind of like under the surface. This, I think, is even more subtle, where it's not even trying to elicit laughter. It's more kind of like nervous or uncomfortable silences, pauses, weirdness that I guess is intended to be funny in its own way, but it just comes off as kind of like not even like humor that misses the mark. It just comes across as like very, very dry, and it's very, very slow moving. So I've read a lot of reviews online, actually. I watched 2 episodes and it was a slog. It was very, very slow. The series kind of hops around where the 3 individuals, a podcaster, his assistant, and this journalist, find different leads for people that may have known what happened or may have somehow been involved. And then they just go kind of like interview them. And of course, it always turns out that, oh, well, that person's not home. Let's break into their house. Let's rifle through their things.
Oh, God. Okay.
It's very slow moving. And the reviews I've read online generally say the following: kind of an interesting mystery. If you like unraveling mysteries like this, a lot of people have actually said, if you like all the murders in the building from a mystery perspective, you will probably like this show. The reviews have all largely said none of the characters are compelling. They're all a little bit weird. And to be honest, they don't even fall into kind of like stereotypes. They're very, very bland, unremarkable people. So, for example, the podcaster himself, who's supposedly like this semi-famous American podcaster, comes across a little bit like unintelligent, a little bit bumbling, a little bit naive, not like this sharp-witted, lots of questions, able to kind of like track down, different leads, using, different like intelligence techniques to kind of like find breakthroughs or link different things. He's just a little bit goofy. His assistant also, she's up and down, where sometimes, she's very, very aggressive in terms of, suggesting break-ins, stealing papers, rifling through people's things. Other hands, she comes across as like this very good-natured, like unpaid intern who's just happy to be along, never been out of the country, never really been exposed to anything. Everything kind of surprises her and shocks her. And then a detective who seems to be terribly burdened by her past and all these other bad things that have somehow happened to her. She's experienced, she's very, very negative about everything, doesn't want to be here, doesn't want to help, doesn't think the story has any merit, only looking to, kind of like escalate things whenever there's a good, like argument she wants to jump in, or a good fracas she wants to kind of escalate. So none of the characters have been, I think, compellingly developed. The murder, or not the murder, the disappearances aspect is kind of interesting, but I have to say, after 2 episodes, I'm going to throw in the towel. This is a skip for me. It's not because of like a cultural issue. It's not particularly Irish. It's not particularly British. It just doesn't have, I think, enough juice, or enough, like, it's not, the pace is just too slow and the characters are too uncompelling, I think, to justify spending any more time on this. I'm sure that we'll get to this, and there will be a disappearance, and it will have a twist and a turn, and somehow it will be a little bit covered up, and someone that we didn't know was related was actually related, and they did this in the best interest of this to protect this person. You know the story, how it goes. But I have to say, there's nothing about this immediately that seems fascinating at all. It doesn't seem to involve aliens. It doesn't seem to involve witchcraft. It doesn't seem to involve anything other than kind of like again, Fargo, Twin Peaks. Something happened. Someone or someones are probably trying to cover it up in the best interest of the kids or their mother or something. It does not have enough to give it any legs.
Okay.
So for me, this is an absolute skip. It's one season so far. There's 7 episodes. Again, the ratings have not been terrible from a mystery side, but no one has spoken glowingly about the characters. None of the characters are iconic, enduring, aspirational, anything like that. But, Pete, there is a but.
Okay.
I've gone off piste, as they say. I have supplemented Bodkin with something else on Apple TV Plus called The Perfect Couple.
Okay.
So Perfect Couple is, if you don't mind me saying, it just came out on Netflix, and that's why I saw it, because it came up all the time. And it's got Nicole Kidman and Liv Schreiber.
Okay.
And this is I don't want to say it's supposed to make you think of the Kennedys, but it is based in Nantucket. And Nicole Kidman, whose name in this show is Greer Winberry, which seems like a pretty cool name. Yeah.
Okay.
She is an author. It's not clear exactly what she's writing, whether it seems to be something like Grishamist. But she is an author, and she turns out, these very popular novels. Her husband is Liv. His name is Tag Winberry in the show. So it's called The Perfect Couple because she's interviewed by People magazine, and, the magazine kind of thinks that they're the perfect couple, right? They've been married for 29 years. They've got multiple kids, and they live on this beautiful place in Nantucket. And everyone is happy, and they seem to always be holding hands and supportive of each other.
Is there a big butt coming here?
There is a big butt coming here. Behind the scenes, of course, Nicole Kidman is kind of, I don't want to say the ruthless matriarch of the family, but she is clearly the driving force behind the family. And Liv is just a house husband. He is smoking quite a lot of cannabis, and he apparently has a history of philandering with any kind of household staff, friends of the family, and so forth. So it's always kind of Nicole Kidman who's trying to keep him out of trouble, covering up for him, but he is, generally the wandering house husband. And the premise of the show takes place when they're all in Nantucket, and one of their sons is getting married. And the night before the wedding, or the morning of the wedding, one of the brides, maid of honor, in fact, is found dead, kind of floating in the water, right? Everyone's kind of like, oh, an accidental drowning. She had too much to drink. And then the Nantucket Police Department comes, and of course they suspect foul play. So everyone's required to stay on the island until they figure it out. And then we see a lot of backstory, and more than one person has potential motive, for killing the maid of honor. And I have to say, it is quite good. I would not call it a must subscribe. It's a solid mooch, and I think it's a very bingeable mooch, to be honest. Nicole Kidman, remember we saw this show where she was like this fitness guru on an island?
9 Perfect Strangers.
9 Perfect Strangers. She plays someone very similar, which is to say, always dressed and appearing perfectly,
Right.
always very in control of the situation, unflappable, always pulls it together, which I feel like has kind of become the MO of Nicole Kidman, right? Compared to, for example, Jennifer Aniston, right? Where Jennifer Aniston has taken roles that have seen her swear,
Yeah.
like
Base
play kind of,
herself comedically.
yeah, like she has more, not just comedic chops, but she's a little bit more willing to like roll up her sleeves and get a little bit dirty and not be like the perfect Jennifer Aniston, right?
Right.
I can't think of any roles where Nicole Kidman's kind of like let down that guard. She's always the very proper, perfectly dressed. Can you think of anything?
I can't. No.
Lioness. I mean, Lioness, exactly, right? Remember her in Lioness?
Yeah.
I do enjoy a good Nicole Kidman, but I have to say, that seems to be like her preferred role. I don't know if she doesn't have any other range, but that seems to be her role now, where she plays that person in Lioness, repress all your feelings, keep a straight face. Someone comes at you, give them a sharp comeback, doesn't bother you. You know, you're stone kind of. Yeah. So anyway, back to The Perfect Couple. I've watched kind of 4 episodes, I guess. It's very, very solid. Again, it's not a must subscribe, but for Netflix, it's got a 6.5 stars on IMDb. It's a very good, proper Netflix watchable, bingeable show. I expect that there's going to be a twist and a turn in terms of who actually kills the lady, right? I mean, we're always being
I bet you
pushed
it's
one
Nicole
way or
Kidman.
another. Yeah, it might be Nicole Kidman. Or it very well be Nicole Kidman who frames her husband.
Oh yeah,
right?
exactly.
So anyway, I after watching 2 episodes of Bodkin, which really dragged on and on and on. They're hour-long episodes. They're not 30-minute episodes.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I needed something to kind of perk me up again. I saw The Perfect Couple. It's been, all over my feed.
Yeah.
So that's where we are in terms of stream or skip. What do I have next week?
So next week you have a show on Paramount Plus. We haven't gone to Paramount Plus in a while.
We have not. Yeah.
Called Sexy Beast. I guess
All
it's a
right.
life story. I don't know. And I am on Apple TV again, watching a sci-fi show called Dark Matter.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you to see Dark Matter. I think Dark Matter is also not a new show. I think it's very old, right?
No, it's 2024.
You're right, it is. Is it multiple series or just this one season?
I think just this one season.
I have to say, I've seen Dark Matter. It's Joel Edgerton,
Yeah,
Jennifer Connelly.
yeah.
I've seen it come up a lot, and that's why I gave it to you, because it looks like it should be super, super good, but I don't know. So I'm definitely looking forward to your take on it, because I think I really trust your judgment on these sci-fi shows. I'm looking forward to you telling me what it's all about.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Again, I think Apple's got a lockdown on the sci-fi niche.
Yeah.
So let's see. I've got high hopes.
All right, Pete, we got anything else to ramble about?
Not this week. I'm looking forward to next week. Again, Bodkin is a skip. Women in Blue, or Azul, as it were, when it was originally released in Spanish. Must subscribe.
All right, let's see what we get next week with Dark Matter and what do I have? Sexy Beast.
Sexy Beast.
All right, everybody. Pete, read off the YouTube creds and all that social media jazz.
Absolutely. Reach out to us. Tweet at us at F&S Podcast. DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. And as always, like this video, leave a comment below, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell.
All right. Pete, thanks for joining. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week on the next episode of the Films and Stuff Podcast. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.